Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down complex topics into clear, dynamic presentations.
So let's jump right in. Can we actually grow food and generate electricity on the exact same piece of land? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true, right? But this isn't some sci-fi fantasy. It's a question that scientists and engineers are taking very, very seriously. And it gets right to the heart of one of the biggest challenges we're all facing.
You know, when you think about it, we're in a bit of a bind. Our planet is under some serious pressure. We need more food for a growing population, and at the same time, we desperately need more clean energy to power our world. The problem? Both of these things are competing for the exact same critical resource, land. And this isn't some far-off future problem. Nope, it's happening right now.
I mean, just look at the situation. Agriculture's footprint is, well, it's massive. It already uses a ton of land and accounts for something like 70% of all our freshwater use. That's huge. And then, on the other side, you've got these big, utility-scale solar farms. What do they need? Lots and lots of flat, sunny land. The exact same terrain that's perfect for growing crops. So yeah, you can see how this creates a pretty direct conflict.
So that leads to a really interesting question. What if we didn't have to choose? What if there was a way to resolve this conflict, to combine these two absolutely essential activities? Instead of forcing this choice between food and energy, what if we could create a partnership?
Well, it is a name for it. It's called Agrivoltaics, or APV for short. And really, it's a completely different way of thinking about land use. The core idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of having food and energy compete for land, you create a system where they share it. It's all about making one piece of land do the work of two.
And what's cool is that this isn't some one-size-fits-all solution. The tech is incredibly adaptable. You can have things like semi-transparent solar panels actually built into greenhouse roofs, or you can mount panels on these tall stilts way above open fields. There are even dynamic systems, kind of like blinds with rotating blades, that can open or close depending on how sunny it is, making sure the crops below get just the right amount of light.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But here's the big question. Does this synergy actually work in the real world? What's the real payoff? I mean, it's a fantastic idea, but we need to dig into the data and see if the benefits really stack up.
All right, let's look at some numbers, because this is where it gets really interesting. In one study in a semi-arid part of China, they set up an agrivoltaic system that also harvested rainwater. The result? It cut water usage by almost 58%. That's incredible. How? Well, the panels provided shade, which meant less water evaporated, and they also literally collected rainwater. In a dry climate, that is a total game changer.
And get this, that same system also boosted the economic revenue from that land by more than 23%. That's a huge bump. It came from a couple of things. Choosing crops that actually did well in the shade, and then selling the extra electricity the panels generated. So it wasn't just about saving resources. It was about creating brand new value from the exact same plot of land.
But the potential here gets even wilder. We're talking truly futuristic stuff. Some models show that if you take the electricity you're generating right there on the farm and use it to cultivate microbial proteins, just think of it like a super high-tech way to brew food, you could potentially get more than 10 times the protein yield from the same piece of land compared to growing a traditional crop. That's not just an improvement. That is a complete paradigm shift in how we think about producing food.
And this isn't just about impressive numbers or future possibilities. The human impact is massive, and it's happening right now. Take the Sudano-Sahel region. There, solar-powered drip irrigation has been a huge boost for household incomes. It's meant better nutrition, especially during the long dry season. In fact, people there reported a 17% drop in chronic food insecurity. This stuff is literally changing lives.
But let's be real for a second. As promising as all this sounds, it's not a magic wand. It's not always a perfect win-win. There are some really important trade-offs to think about, and making these systems work really comes down to striking a very, very delicate balance.
For instance, if you look at the whole life cycle, I'm talking from manufacturing the panels all the way to when they're disposed of, the picture gets a bit more complicated. Sure, agrivoltaics is an absolute slam dunk when it comes to saving land, no question. But its overall impact on global warming, well, that can be higher or lower. It really depends on things like how efficient the panels are, and maybe most importantly, what kind of dirty energy it's replacing on the grid.
And of course, the most obvious trade-off you have to think about is the crops themselves. I mean, less sun means less growth, right? The amount of shade is absolutely critical. Some crops that love shade, like lettuce, might actually thrive in the cooler environment under the panels. But other crops that need a ton of sun, think tomatoes, could see their yields drop a lot. So it's all about finding the perfect match between the crop and the specific solar setup.
So what this really tells us is that the future here is all about being adaptable. There's no single perfect design that's going to work everywhere. The key is to tailor the system to its specific location. What works on a dense city rooftop is going to be completely different from what you'd want to build in a remote village.
And we're already seeing this happen on two totally different scales. In big cities, people are looking at putting these systems on rooftops, combining solar panels with things like aeroponic towers, where you grow plants with their roots just hanging in the air. It turns all that underused roof space into a place that makes both food and energy. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, you have rural villages. Here, these systems can provide reliable power for things like irrigation pumps, which lets farmers grow crops all year round and get them to market. It's a huge boost for local economies and food security.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. As we redesign our world for a more sustainable future, how do we make these choices? Do we focus on maximizing food or maximizing energy? Or do we try to find this shared path forward? Because agrivoltaics isn't just a technology you see. It's a whole new way of thinking about our relationship with the land. And the path we choose will literally shape the world we live in.